Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into Bumpside Addictions. This channel is dedicated to the discussion, preservation, and restoration of the 1967 through 1972 Ford F-Series truck. On this channel, I will do a complete restoration for y'all to follow along. That particular one will be a 69 F250 4x4, and I'll get to that in a minute. I promise the ensuing episodes will be much more video-centric, focusing on the trucks and the build and the video in the shop than just me in the office. But I'm just using this one to get us started and to lay out the groundwork for what we're going to be doing here, along with some background and some cool pics for you. And then I'll show what my latest project is. It's because of this body line that runs from essentially the tail light to the grill. It sticks out, it protrudes. It's called a bump line, and therefore people call them bump sides. As far as the addictions part of the title of this channel, it's pretty simple. Anybody who has one of these trucks has become an addict, and I know I sure have. The popularity on these trucks has exploded the last couple of years, along with their value. The biggest reason seems to be that they offer a way to have something very old, extremely cool, very customizable, and that you can build a lot of power into. And other people like me, because I'm an old man, other people just look at them and remember what it was like to drive around in them back in the day, or see them all over America's roadways, and like the, you know, just the history of them, and there again, that's me. But that's not to say I'm not a fan of the current trend resto mods. They're extremely cool. They lend themselves to the builder's interpretation of what is neat, what he wants to do, what he'd like to have in the truck. They can be modified in so many ways, and some of those builds are just gorgeous, have a lot of money and a lot of time built into them. And that's also not to say that you have to invest a lot of time in a build. You can do it on a budget and still make a real nice truck, but there are some high dollar builds out there, and we're going to show some of those along the way. We got some cool pics for you, just kind of to show the differences. Here we've got patina trucks, which are just basically trucks that have not been restored and still show their weathering, you know, their wear and tear from, you know, 45, 50 years of life. But they're fixed up mechanically. Some of them are actually resto modded too, but they still have that weathered exterior appearance, and those trucks are really neat. I have several friends who've built some really cool patina trucks, and this is one of them. And of course you have these resto mods, which you can see here. These are also trucks that belong to friends of mine. One has a monster motor built 390 in it. The other one has a new Coyote in it. So, you know, there are so many ways you can go. Manual transmission, automatic transmissions, overdrive, fuel injection, you know, big old V8s with carburetors, you know, Crown Vic front ends. That's something that's really taken off. Other people will do the drop beams, rear axle flips. I mean, it's just it's really endless as to what you can do with these trucks. And again, that's why the popularity has taken off. So anyway, a little background on me and how I became such a fan and eventually got involved in restoring these trucks. It all started way back when I was a little kid. My dad was a manager at a Ford dealership. He was getting ready to go hunting that particular year, and he had normally driven a first-gen Bronco on his hunting trips, and they didn't have any in stock. He needed a truck, and there was this shiny, brand new red 72 F250 4x4, what we affectionately call a highboy, which later I'll get into why they're called highboys. And he drove that truck home, and I was 8 years old, and I'd never seen one, and I just thought it was the coolest, biggest, most beastly thing I've ever seen. And that pretty much got me hooked right then and there. I've owned lots of vehicles over the years. And when I was 17, I bought my first F100. Drove that thing practically into the ground. Couldn't kill it. Was a great truck. Had no idea that they were going to become collectible or cool. I just knew I liked them. I switched for a little while to Pontiac and Mopar muscle. Always liked those vehicles. I like all muscle cars, you know, Fords and GMs and Mopars and AMCs. You know, I like them all, but I never lost my love for the Ford trucks. I didn't have another one until I was about 47, 48 years old. And then I bought this gorgeous original 1970 F100. It just a custom, but it actually had the two-tone and the trim. It was kind of fancy for a custom, but the truck was in great shape. I cleaned it up a little bit, drove it a few times, and having the car dealer blood that I have in me, I sold it. Wished I didn't, and went looking for another one. I found this one, 72 Ranger XLT F100 long bed. Marti Report certified. If you don't know what a Marti Report is, Kevin Marti purchased all of the information on microfiche from Ford and is able to actually do a research on a vehicle. You have to pay him to do it, but he'll be able to tell you exactly how many were built exactly the way yours is if you pay for that report. Takes a month or two to come in, but I got the Marti Report in the truck and it turned out it was one of one. So I started taking that truck apart to fix this and fix that. And the more I took apart, the more I found wrong and the more I took apart. And it became a snowball, and I got mad at it one night and just realized I was going to take this whole thing apart. And so it wound up as a frame, just a bare frame lying on my garage floor. But I had never restored a truck in my life. I had never painted a truck. I had never done any major mechanical work to a truck. My background was always auto detailing and sales, but very little mechanical. So now I had to figure out how to put this thing back together. And I decided that I was going to do a restoration on it, which meant I had to teach myself how. So I set out to teach myself how. I asked a lot of questions of a lot of people along the way, looked at a lot of pictures online, joined some really good Facebook groups, which I'll get into. They helped me a lot, really good people. And set out to restore this truck. And it turned out to be pretty successful. I took the truck to the first national show that came up after the truck was completed, and it won its class, first place. And so that got me further, deeper, hooked than I was before. And then I bought another truck. Actually, it was a couple of trucks that I put together, but that turned into this truck, which is a 69 F350 four-wheel drive tow truck, or Holmes Wrecker. And that truck also won Truck of the Year in its class at the first national show I went to. Then I took it to the 100th anniversary of towing show, which was a very big milestone in the towing industry. And I thought, well, the truck is fresh, it's done, I may as well take it. So I hauled it to Tennessee and it won the antique class there as well. So again, I just kept going further and further, doing more and more and getting deeper and deeper into these. And I decided I was going to build what my dream truck was, which was a F250 four-wheel drive, what we call a highboy. But a little background on that, the reason I wanted one so badly is when I was a kid, I was 17 years old, I was working for my dad. He was a used car dealer at the time. He traded in a 70 F100 Sport Custom 4x4. I wanted that truck so bad I could taste it. But like anything else, my dad sold it out from underneath me because in the car business, everything has a price tag. But I told myself I'd own one. And so then when the third build came around and I was itching to do something, I decided I'm going to build the ultimate Bumpside four-wheel drive, and that's the highboy. They're called highboys because they are very high from the factory, because they have a divorce transfer case, meaning there's a drive shaft between the transfer case and the transmission. They're not bolted together like newer trucks are. And there are a lot of other differences, but suffice to say, they're beastly, they're very tall, and they're really, really cool. So I decided I was going to build one of those. And that's this truck that you see here, which is a 69 F250 Ranger 4x4 highboy. It was sky view blue, and I did the roof in Wimbledon white, which are both factory colors. I did some upgrades to the truck, but mostly what I consider to be hidden upgrades. I wanted to make it more drivable and more reliable, but I wanted it to look stock, and this was the final product. So I took that truck to Mecum Auto Auction, where I think I set a record. The truck brought $70,000. And that truck's popularity and my following, if you will, it really took off from there. I'm humbled and appreciative of the following that I've picked up, but it's made a lot of people, you know, contact me to ask questions about their build, whether it be two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, whatever. A lot of things I don't know, but a lot of things I do, and I'm happy to share the information. But it occurred to me that I could start this channel here on YouTube and have people actually watch me build the truck, make my mistakes, bleep out my cursing, throw some tools across the garage, you know, show the real world warts and all process of building a truck, the aggravation, the blood, sweat, the tears, and the triumph of finally getting it done. I've been through that process a couple of times. Sometimes you want to quit, but when you're finally done with the truck, you know why you did it. And so I encourage people to watch along, not get discouraged with what they're doing. Every time they make a mistake, understand that they're not the first to make mistakes. They're not going to be the last. I make them all the time. I still make them. But you learn from them and you move on, and hopefully you don't make the same mistake twice. So on here, I will record and share video and audio of a complete frame-off restoration process, hopefully of several builds along the way. We'll talk about the two-wheel drives, the four-wheel drives, the resto mods, the stock original trucks, the restored two original trucks. You know, pretty much try to touch base on everything. Show you my friend's trucks with, again, the new Coyote engine, and you know, the modern drive lines and everything. I have not driven, but I've been told that a Crown Vic front end and you know, some of these Explorer rear suspensions or four links, you know, different things people put in, along with the modern Coyote Mustang type driveline, and the power steering and power disc brakes and air conditioning and power windows and, you know, monster audio systems and all these. It's basically like driving a brand new truck, but with an old body. And they're really cool. And it takes a lot of thought process to put them together. And so, you know, we're going to talk with these people. I'm going to take you to some shows, some national shows, and show you some trucks and talk to their owners and ask what they did. Again, this channel is going to be all about this particular style of truck, not just what I'm building, but that is what it will focus on, is the truck that I'm building. Hopefully, the truck that I'm building will be ready in time for the first national show, and I'll have it there. So, you know, you'll all get to see how that truck is judged as well as the trucks that, you know, will go there to look at. So, getting back to the Facebook groups, where I've gotten so much knowledge along the way. Fix 'em Your Way, 67 to 72 F100. They are just wonderful people. I don't know, by now they're probably 25,000 strong. People always willing to answer questions there. It's very well policed. Anybody gets out of hand, they get booted. You know, it's a family-oriented group, and it's fantastic. The next one, same thing, very well policed, huge group, Fortification.com, but spelled F-O-R-D instead of F-O-R-T. Fortification.com, that's also a Facebook group. And again, just any kind of information you want, it exists there, or somebody will answer the question. They also have access to the actual person who started it. Keith, he has access to a vast library of literature, you know, technical bulletins from the dealerships, from the manufacturers to the dealerships back in the day. I mean, you know, just a wealth of information. So anything you need, you can get there. There is a third one on Facebook. I started it. It's called the Old Ford Trucks Restorations Group. And that's starting to take off. You know, but basically that's more geared towards the restoration of trucks than it is the resto modding or modernization of trucks. But they all have great information. All of them will give you links to places you can go to find parts, which is huge because these trucks are 50 years old. And when you need to source something, you know, they don't grow on every street corner. But surprisingly, a lot of things are reproduced and available new. And, you know, when you need to look for it, those people will tell you where to look to. To that end, I do have a sponsor here, which is Autocrafters. They are an excellent source of aftermarket reproduction and replacement parts for old Fords in general and these trucks in particular. Along those lines, and I'm going to get to this much later down the road when I'm actually putting it in the truck, I have another sponsor, which is Benchworks Steering. Now, a lot of these trucks either didn't come with power steering or it just plain wasn't offered, and that's the case in the four-wheel drives back then. The Highboys and even the F100 four-wheel drives of the Bumpside era did not offer power steering of any kind. And, you know, so they had what we call Armstrong steering. You know, just had to wrestle the steering wheel to get these trucks to drive, and it didn't make them very fun. And Benchworks puts together just a phenomenal retrofit kit. I've used it now in my last build, the light blue one I showed you, and I'm going to use it in the current build that I'm doing, which I'm going to show you. But it's a phenomenal kit, and if you want to add power steering to any Ford truck that doesn't have it or never came with it, those are definitely the people you want to deal with. Both of those sponsors, I have to tell you, just wonderful customer service, you know, great pricing. So please check them out, you know, if you would. So getting down to what I'm currently working on. This is actually a picture of the truck I bought to build. It is a 69 F250 4x4, as I said. Now you'll see it looks kind of beat up in the pictures, and it is, but it's an Arizona truck and it's rust-free. My original thought process was to try to restore the body, but when I actually picked it up in Arizona, I looked at it and thought, you know, it's got a good cab, it's got a good hood, it's got some good things on it, and I can sell those, but it doesn't have a nice complete body. So I set out looking for a rust-free truck that I could swap its entire body to this four-wheel drive chassis once the chassis is prepped and painted and built and, you know, ready to go. And that's this truck here. This orange truck is also a 69 Ford. It's an F250, two-wheel drive. I'm going to steal its motor and transmission and its body and use them in the four-wheel drive. Now, I will get to this in the videos, but you will see that the transmission is actually different. It's not the transmission so much, it is the output shaft housing on the back of the transmission is different from four-wheel drive to two-wheel drive. I have that on my current transmission, but I am going to use it on the transmission out of the orange truck, and that will adapt it to the four-wheel drive just the way it would have been built. The 360 engine that's coming out of the orange truck is going to be upgraded to a 390. Now, for those who don't know, the 390 and 360 are the identical engines in every way, except for the crank and the connecting rods. So the crank and rods from a 390 will be swapped into this 360, turning it into a 390, which Ford did not offer in a four-wheel drive for some reason. Nobody really knows why. They had more horsepower and they had more torque. The only thing I can think of is that maybe they thought the 360 would last longer because it didn't have as much power built into it. But for whatever reason, they only offered a 360 as a V8 option. You could also get 2 6-cylinders, but that's a whole different episode. So it's going to be a 69 F250 4x4 with a 390, and it will be upgraded to power steering and disc brakes. Now, how we're going to accomplish the disc brakes is this. In 76 and early 77, Ford offered essentially this same truck in a slightly different body style, but with disc brakes. It still had a low pinion Dana 44 front axle, but it was disc brakes instead of the drum that these trucks would have come with. It's a very popular swap so that you can wind up with disc brakes, but you still wind up with the appearance of the way the truck was originally built, and I will be doing that as well. So the truck will ultimately have a mildly built 390, which is an upgrade, power steering, which is an upgrade, power brakes, which is an upgrade, and disc brakes, which is an upgrade. And essentially will be stock otherwise. It'll look like that light blue one did, but it will be this Cordova orange and will have a white roof. It will also have the Ranger exterior trim, but the interior is going to be upgraded to what's called the Explorer trim, and again, that's a later episode and we'll get to that. So that's pretty much it for this installment. In the next episode, I'll take you through the dismantling of the and the refurbishing of the four-wheel drive's chassis, as well as what I'm doing with the driveline. After that, there will be other episodes showing the installation of the engine and the driveline, and then going to the body prep and paint, and then painting the truck, and then the assembly of the body, and then putting the interior in, and so on and so forth until the truck is completed. And after that, if it goes all according to plan, I hope to just start another build right here for y'all to follow. So again, please give my sponsors a look, autocrafters.com and benchworksteering.com. And if you like what you saw here and you want to come back and watch the truck being built and get some questions answered and hopefully be a little entertained, please click the like and subscribe and notification buttons. That way you'll be notified as soon as the next episode comes out. So thanks for your time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Bumpside Addictions.